I've been passionate about empowering business owners for a really long time. Around Findability is my brand. I worked for Yahoo for a number of years. I've had my own consulting agency here. I sold my agency last year. I had about 16 employees, and I now have what I call Findability University. And the university, we have about 600 students. I speak a lot to CEOs and leadership teams all over the country about findability strategies for business owners and executives specifically in setting strategy. And I am still amazed. I've been in this business for, 13 years, 14 years, practically since the inception of the internet, practically. And I'm still amazed at the confusion around findability in internet marketing. And I'm going to be writing my third book called Marketing Espionage, how to leverage competitive intelligence to dominate online. And the first thing I thought of course, was HubSpot. And I wanted to speak to you a little bit about, first of all, tell me a little bit about the genesis of HubSpot, who it serves, and then we'll kind of get into maybe some more detailed questions. But my platform is really, my students, if you will, they want to do it themselves. They're not tacticians. They're not highly technical. They don't call themselves a geek or an SEO professional. They just need to, set up an internet marketing plan that will be successful for them. So with knowing all that, just real quickly, tell me a little bit about HubSpot. And I've known about it for years and years, but I don't really know how it started, what the original sort of intent was for the tools.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So the original intent was definitely very much all the things you were just talking about, which is that our co-founders, Brian and Dharmesh, they saw that, believed that the way that buyers were making purchasing decisions and researching and the way all of us were sort of behaving had really, really changed, and that companies hadn't changed their marketing and sales strategies to adapt to how people purchase things today. And they said, you know what? Let's dive into this area and start to figure it out. And I think what they learned was that there were some strategies that you could use, between blogging and SEO and social media and things like that. But implementing those was very, very difficult, because it required you to use a variety of different tools that, a technical person could figure out how to integrate them and set them all up and things like that. But there was no sort of easy to use but also still powerful solution that made that easy for business owners and marketers to really dive into. And so they started HubSpot, and they started building a product, and the vision was to have this all-in-one marketing platform that helped you basically do better inbound marketing. So how do you attract people, become, as you say, more findable through SEO, through blogging, through social media, through all these things, and just put all the tools that you need to do all those things and to grow your business, put them all in one place. And that was the original vision, and that's, it's actually really interesting because the vision has not really changed that much. Here we are 8 years later.
So if I'm a business owner and I've heard about you, and a lot of the attendees in my sessions mention HubSpot, and I'm just curious about what makes your tool more accessible than, say, other tools that are out there on the market, and why would a business owner want to take that on themselves?
Yeah, I think for HubSpot, I think that we pride ourselves on ease of use, and so I think the combination of having all of the different tools that you need in one place, and that also having those be very easy to use, I think is really a core part of our advantage. So I think if you were to compare us to more complicated and more expensive systems like enterprise marketing automation systems, where far easier to use than they are, and if you compare us to a variety of the sort of free or almost free tools that are out there, those tend to be very narrow point solutions, whereas we're very broad and we have all the things in one place, so it makes it far easier to use. It also means that there's 1-800 number you call, we pick up in usually less than a minute, and there's a person you talk to, and they will take care of all of your problems, as opposed to trying to figure out, okay, well, I'm having this problem. Is the problem with the form builder software that I have, or is the problem with the WordPress website that I have, or is the problem with the connection to my email system that I have, or is the problem that connection to my social media system, or is the problem with the template that I bought off this marketplace that runs the website, or like where exactly is the problem, and who are you going to call for all those things when you need help and you need support? And the answer is, it's hard to tell what the problem is. You're not really sure who to call, and most of them don't even let you call them. So for HubSpot, it's definitely, compared to a lot of the, sort of free or sort of cheap things, it's far, far broader and more integrated, and it's sort of a single point of contact that we can help you with those things. And compared to the, the really expensive, more powerful, more complicated things, we're just far, far easier to use and much more approachable.
Well, and I think when I look at your homepage, and I think if I was I've been in this business for a really long time, so I'm not intimidated by these different moving parts, as it were. But if talking with the Findability University students, they feel overwhelmed. And even with a platform as comprehensive as HubSpot, what kind of advice can you give to my students and listeners today that where do they start? How do they get over sort of the angst around not being technical-minded geeks, if you will? How do you start in a way that, they're super busy. They're running their businesses. They might have internal team members that can support them in this. What I find is there's a big disconnect between strategic planning around online marketing and actual implementation. And I see that a lot of executives, I speak to a lot of CEO groups, and a lot of executives kind of take a hands-off approach. They're like, well, I have people for that. So I'd be curious to get your feedback about what is the role of the executive using HubSpot, and then what is the role of the tactician who's using it day to day?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I'd say, in terms of the day-to-day usage, certainly the day-to-day person is going to be, writing blog articles, sending emails, building landing pages, doing social media engagement, things like that.
Sure.
But I even think of maybe a week-to-week basis, the executives should certainly be logging in and checking out a lot of the reporting and just seeing sort of what are the trends, how is the trend of new lead generation going, things like that, and just have an understanding of are those marketing metrics moving the right way to help drive your business.
Right.
But then at a higher level, I think that I don't feel like this is the type of stuff that you can just sort of delegate to someone and not really think about it. What we're really talking about is really a wholesale change in how you think about growing your business. And especially, I think it seems like a lot of folks, that you work with, they tend to be, I would think, the person that is the expert on the industry and on the business, and that knowledge that is in their heads is what their customers and their potential customers are craving for. And so you need to figure out some way to get that knowledge out of their heads and onto web pages on their site, probably blog articles, so that when people type those questions into Google, they can find your website versus someone else's website, right? So I think especially, it sounds like, my understanding of the folks that you work with, I would think that one of the things that they would want to do is they have all this expertise because they are experts because they're started a business in a certain industry and they're experts in that industry. People have questions all the time, and I think the ability for them to get that knowledge out of their heads and onto web pages is a great place to start. And so I think it requires a little bit more involvement than just oh, well, I have somebody working on that.
Right. I see a lot of, or what I see is the opposite of that, Mike. I see people where they're like, they hire the youngest person or the intern, and then they're given the challenge of managing their online presence. And
yeah.
It's like,
is this important or not? Do you want people to find you in Google or not? Do you want to grow your business or not? Right? And it's one of those things where, it's important, and the stress of being a small business owner is difficult because there's so many things pulling for your attention. But this stuff is important, and and as well as anyone that it also works. But it does take some time and some investment. You just need to prioritize it, however, according to whatever the priorities are for growing your business.
Right. And I think HubSpot was really created to be sort of that conduit, because I get a lot of overwhelm from business owners. Well, what about SEO, and what about blogging, and should I do social, and how do I manage my email? And really your tool kind of brings it all together and gives you a centralized place. So, with that said, where do I start? If I have a limited amount of time with your tool, where do I start, and what would you say would be 3 things to focus on right out of the gate? I realize your tool does a lot, but what are 3 things that you think that would be the best possible way in which for my students to start with your program, with your package, and really get the most amount of benefit the quickest?
So I think it's the good news is I think it's pretty straightforward. I think if you want to say 3 things, that's great. The first thing, or one of the 3 things, I think, is starting a blog where you're publishing some content that is interesting and useful to your potential customers on somewhat of a regular basis. Let's even just say maybe once a week. Just doing that can just give a huge amount of boost to your SEO and make you much more findable. The second thing would be creating some sort of an offer, and this is something that people can download or register for, something like that, where they're going to give you their contact information in exchange for something that you're offering them. And then you need to have, obviously, a form to collect that contact information. And I'd say the third thing is have a call to action, so a button or a text link that goes from your homepage and from every blog article that you write to that offer, so that as people are finding your homepage, as they're finding these blog articles that you're writing, that they have an opportunity to opt in and sort of give you their contact information. And it needs to be more appealing than just contact us. I always feel like every website has this contact us page, and my question is always, when I see that page, is always why, versus, download this free assessment or a free guide to these things or whatever, and it's going to vary a lot based on what the business is. But I think if you start a blog and you have an offer and then you have call to action links to landing page for that offer, that could be just those couple things could be huge for a lot of mid-sized and smaller businesses.
So I've just, for the sake of showing people what a brand new account looks like, I have set up a trial account just to kind of show them the look and feel of the dashboard. It's not very interesting to look at the homepage. When I'm looking at this, it seems to be an incredibly comprehensive dashboard of content. And I'm wondering, are there any sort of critical elements? There's a lot of content here. And I know if I was maybe a person starting, I might feel a little bit apprehensive about all the data that I'm looking at. I see that you start with content and then marketing performance, and then landing pages, and then blogging, and then emails. How much work does it take to get this set up? And am I going to have to work closely with my webmaster to get like the tracking and things like that on my site, or are there tools here to help me do that myself?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there definitely is. It's not the kind of thing where you sign up and 2 minutes later it's all set up. Like, there's definitely some effort there. We try to make it as smooth as possible. We've made it smoother over the years, but there's definitely some effort there. If you're going to use HubSpot with your existing website, then yes, you need to figure out how to get the tracking code from HubSpot onto your website. If you use WordPress, we actually have a WordPress plugin that makes it relatively easy. If you're using something else, then you can usually typically cut and paste some code very similar to Google Analytics. So definitely there's some things. I think that the thing that we try to do to make it as easy as possible is a couple things. One is we have a fantastic support team. In fact, you can even see there's a big blue button right there that says get help with your trial. So we try to make it really easy for you to get some help when you need some help. The second thing is that, so now you're going to get a call, so that's perfect. So, the second thing is that we do have a bunch of guides. So right down there, actually on that page that you were just on, there's a bunch of guides there that show you how to get started and things like that. We have an entire area called HubSpot Academy, and there's like a bunch of free, basically training classes and things like that, on how to use it and things like that. And then we also have available, if you want more help than that, we have a professional services team that will handhold you and do web conference calls with you and walk you through it and over as whatever time period you sort of want. So we do have sort of a variety of different levels available, from online videos and classes through to getting support on kind of an ad hoc basis, to actually having somebody basically do a lot of hand holding and help get you started. So there's a whole variety of things there that we try to do to make it as easy as possible. But it's like what we're talking about is it's not. I agree with you. It's not the simplest thing in the world. So there's definitely a little bit of doing to get it going.
So I guess I have gotten some feedback around, what if I put it all in there? What is the risk of having all of that dumped into one tool versus me, what if I'm not happy with it? What if it doesn't, why would I put everything into one tool as opposed to having individual tools? And is there any risk in doing that? And I get that question a lot. Kind of like they're watching everything, so that big brother concept. And I know you've heard that probably a lot, but I get this question all the time. And I just was wondering if you could address that. Why would I want to centralize? Why would I want to put this all together? And what if I'm not happy and I need to do something else?
Yeah, so the first point I'll make is that it is as easy or easier to get your data out of HubSpot as it is of any of those individual point solutions. So, for instance, if you wanted to move from WordPress to Drupal, you can export individual HTML pages or things like that, but that's not an easy process. It is as easy or easier to get from HubSpot to something else on the web content side. Same thing in terms of email. If you want to export a list of your email addresses from Constant Contact, you can do that. You can do the same exact thing from HubSpot, so all that's exportable. So certainly, I'd say it's about the same amount of effort to get the different components of HubSpot out as it is to get them out from the individual tools. But here's the benefit of the centralization. Rather than taking an export from SurveyMonkey or Wufoo Forms or something like that, and then importing that into Constant Contact, and then sending out an email, and then having to look in Constant Contact to see what the open rate, the click-through rate on the email is, and then have to look in your Google Analytics to see how many of those people actually end up on your website, and have to look at something else to see how many of them then fill out the landing page to register for the new thing that you asked them to register for. That rather than looking all over the place, having different tools that aren't integrated and have no one that you can call for support, we bring all that stuff together and we try to make it as simple and easy as possible. So the power of having all that stuff in one place is I think, pretty convincing. And so I think especially when you're looking at a situation where the ability to move off of something is basically the same as if you're using a collection of point tools, but the power and ease of use is much better having it all in one place. I obviously feel like it's pretty compelling.
Sure. So I have been using this tool for as long as I can remember. It used to be called Website Grader, I think, and now it's called Marketing Grader. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, I realize this is a great place to sort of get people to opt in, but I've always wanted to talk to someone at HubSpot around the real meaning of the report that comes out of this. And is this a way, can I get real value from this report, or is it just a hook to have me sign up for more? And what am I looking at when I run a report here?
A lot of questions.
Sorry.
No, they're good questions. They're very good questions. So the way I think about it is it's sort of yes to all of them. Like, do I think this report is valuable? I absolutely think it's valuable. Is it also trying to give you a little bit of a sample of some of the things, in and around HubSpot, so you might want to buy something from us? Of course it is, right? Yeah. We're marketers and business folks just like everybody else, and that's something that we're looking for. But we're not trying to, it's not one of those things where I think we're trying to trick people and sort of tell them that there's some value there, and there's really not unless they pay something. I think even just running this Marketing Grader report for free provides a lot of value. And so it gives you a lot of depth around, how many people are linking to your website, how many, what's your social presence look like, how does that compare? There's a whole bunch of different data around the report that I think is really cool. And you know what? It takes, usually a minute or so to run, and then it'll run the report. And then you can evaluate for yourself how valuable or not valuable it is. But we try to go through as much as we can and then point out places where your website can be improved and things like that.
So this is more of
course, yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. So, but yeah.
I always explain this tool, this particular. I'm not sure why it's not running right now. Do I have the right?
Well, it's because you're recording this, right? So it's Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. Anytime you go to do something like this, it doesn't work.
Of course. Yeah. We'll try it. We'll try it again. I run it all the time in my sessions. I always wonder if you guys maybe are watching what's going on, because I have hundreds of people run this tool at one time, and it works beautifully. Yeah. But in regard to the outcome of this report, I always try to explain it as it's a wide kind of a 10,000 view of what you're doing from an engagement standpoint. And we talk a lot about, if we're going to be seen as experts through the eyes of Google and people who search for us, obviously we have to be there, but in order to be seen as an expert, we have to engage on multiple levels. So for a long time, it was all about SEO, just get first position ranking and we're good, get lots of links, we're good. Well, those days are gone. we need to really be a holistic thought leader in our social, our blogging, our website. And I'm just wondering, am I explaining that correctly, and then about the results that this tool is giving?
Yeah, no, I think you're thinking about it the right way. I really think you are. I mean, there's lots of different things you can look at, right, to sort of assess your sort of online presence, and I think that this is I think it's a good one. You're definitely right that it is a high-level one, and the way to think about it, I think you're right. I think figuring out how to sort of showcase to the web that you have that expertise, and that you can be helpful and valuable to people, I think is what we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other tools that I can run? I know that you have, so your base level entry is $200 a month, and based on what I'm seeing on your pricing on your website. Tell me a little bit about where, is that the place to start? So let's just say you're under a $2 million company, which is most of the companies that I work with are under $2 million. They have, up 20 to 50 employees. Is that where you should start? And tell me a little bit about that investment versus going out and hiring, other individualized services to do that. Because I do get some feedback that people initially like, oh God, that's kind of expensive. And I'm just wondering, what's your take on the pricing and the return?
Yeah, so I think for those businesses, sort of that 20 to 50 employees under 2 million that you're talking about, I think that's absolutely the right place to start. And then, hey, if you want to have more and more power over time, then that's fine. But if you don't, then that's fine as well. The way I like to think about it is, in reality, $200 a month is a tiny amount, a tiny investment for the both benefit that you can potentially receive and for the amount of time it is going to save you. So if you think about how, whatever rate you bill your time at each month and the amount of time you're exporting data from one tool and importing it to another tool, and the amount of just hassle that you have and not having anybody that you can call for support, and not having sort of an integrated playbook that you can follow and things like that, to me, if it even saves you just a few hours a month and helps you be more productive, then that definitely pays for it right there. And then, our average customer gets I think it's about 5.3 times more leads through their website after they've been using HubSpot for 6 months. So to me, it's, what would you pay to get 5 times more inquiries through your website? To me, that could be worth, that could be worth $2,000 a month or $20,000 a month, right? So $200 a month can be a very small amount to pay. The other thing I'll point to is, as you said, we try to offer a bunch of free tools. So we have the marketing grader here that we're looking at now, or the marketing grader that we were looking at a second ago, which is a free tool. But we also have an interesting free tool, which is a little bit more aimed sort of at sales and account management folks, called Signals. And that's at getsignals.com, and people can use that.
Are you saying signals or singles?
Signals, yeah,
okay.
Signals.
That's a completely different website, Mike, the Get Singles.
Oh, yeah. I haven't checked that one out recently, but yeah. So, so Get Signals is another, and that's there's a paid version of that, but there's also a fully functional free version that lots of people use. And it gives you a bunch of information about the people that you're emailing. It can do some tracking of your emailing, so if you're trying to sell to someone or close a deal or things like that, it can be useful. And then we actually have another tool as well for, I don't know, for any folks that this one's sort of really new, but there's a tool called Lead In, and that one is actually a WordPress plugin that takes a lot of sort of, it basically takes a contact management system and integrates that right into your WordPress instance. And so that's a way to start to get some of the functionality. Now, neither of those things come close to doing all the different things that HubSpot does, but those are interesting ways. If people really just want to play around with a few things sort of for free, that's interesting. And then we also have, we have a free trial as well for the main HubSpot product. So it's definitely the kind of thing where you can try to play with it and use it a little bit before you actually purchase it. So, we try to we feel like we bring a lot of value to the table, but we definitely, that's up to the, in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, the Forbes article from last year said that even if you want an entry-level, SEO person or marketing manager, you're looking at between $50,000 and $70,000 a year to bring that person in. So
at least, yeah, I'll tell you, in the Boston market, it's more than that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, everything's more in Boston. I've gotten lost there many times. It's a very fun town. once you get in the tunnel, you're not coming out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
No, I love Boston a lot. Well, I guess what's in store for HubSpot moving forward? What's the future, and where do you see the company growing and moving into?
Yeah, so we have, I think, almost not quite 12,000, like 11,500, something like that, customers in 70 countries around the world. We grew 50% last year. We feel like things are going great. We started to expand internationally more and more, so we opened an office in Dublin, in Ireland, about 18 months ago. We opened an office in Sydney last month. So the international expansion is going really, really well. There's a lot of sort of demand and interest in HubSpot and inbound marketing outside of the U.S., which is great. And then the other big thing for us too is we've started to sort of branch out and launch even more products. So, we talked about that Signals product. That's really meant a little bit more for sales reps and account managers, and I think executives can use it as well. Whereas our kind of core history was coming from the marketing side of things. So we've started to become much more of a multi-product company, and we'll definitely be launching more and more products to help all the different disciplines within a company sort of be more productive and help them grow the business more and more effectively. So we have our annual inbound conference coming up in just 2.5 weeks. It's mid-September. There's 8,000, should be at least 8,000 people there this year. It was about 5,000 last year, 2,800 the year before. So just we're seeing a ton of growth and feel really good about things, and the community is definitely growing. So yeah. So I feel like the future's pretty bright.
So just if you could give a pep talk to a business owner or executive about tackling this themselves, what would you say to them?
Just the opportunity is huge. I mean, just think about how you buy things, right? And are you sitting around waiting to get a piece of direct mail or waiting to get a cold call? No, you're on Google, you're researching things, you're reading things on the web, you're seeing what your friends have to say on LinkedIn or maybe Twitter or maybe Facebook. And if that's the way that you're searching around and buying things, I think you want to think about how can you adapt your own marketing and sales strategy to attract buyers in this much more effective way. And there's a huge advantage to being one of the first in your industry to do this. And so getting started early definitely has some big advantages to it. So I think it's a huge opportunity to transform your sales and marketing and grow your business a lot if you really embrace these things with these principles, completely.
Well, I'm excited about continuing to evangelize for HubSpot. I'm a big fan. We use your marketing grader tools in all of my sessions, and I'm excited to see where HubSpot grows. And I need to consider going to that conference. I think I need to get on board. And I don't really see myself as an inbound marketer, but I think everyone really needs to understand as a business owner all about inbound marketing.
I think that's right. We'd obviously love to have you at the conference, and but either way, we definitely appreciate everything you have to say. And I think, to be honest, I think we obviously would love people to use our software. We think our software is awesome. I'm even happy when people just start doing more inbound marketing, even if they're not using our software yet. Just because I think it helps them grow, it helps all of us, helps the economy grow, and I think it's a super, super positive thing. So, that's why we share so many free resources with the community. So, thanks a ton for all the work that you're doing as well. It sounds fantastic.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for your time today, Mike. I look forward to what HubSpot has in store for us, and just thanks again for your time, and I know how busy you are, and good luck with the conference coming up.
Yeah, thanks a ton. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with folks.
Okay, great. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again.
Thank you.